Before we get into anything else today, I need to show you something that will blow your mind. The person who created Bitcoin, the mysterious figure known as Satoshi Nakamoto, just lost $47 billion. His net worth dropped from $137 billion down to about $90 billion. That is a 34% collapse in just a few weeks. The so-called king of crypto is watching his empire crumble. But here is what makes this interesting. While the old king is falling apart, something else is happening. A different project, one that was built from the ground up to fix everything Bitcoin got wrong, just scored a massive win today. A quiet, global victory that Bitcoin could never achieve. And the connection between these two events is going to change everything you think you know about crypto. But to understand why today matters so much, we first need to talk about what actually happened this morning. Hello pioneers, welcome back to the channel. I am Nathan. Today is November 22nd, 2025. This is the day when the entire global financial system officially switched over to something called the ISO 2022 standard. Now I know that sounds technical, so let me break it down in simple terms. Think of the old financial system like sending a text message on an old flip phone. You could get the basic message across, but it was clunky, limited, and often confusing. Banks around the world have been using this old way of talking to each other for decades. ISO 20022 is like upgrading everyone to smartphones all at once. Suddenly, you can send detailed messages, include pictures, verify who sent what, and everything is crystal clear. No more confusion, no more mistakes. This is not some minor update. This is the biggest change to how money moves around the world in over 40 years. Now, many of you woke up this morning expecting something dramatic. You thought prices would explode. You thought there would be announcements and celebrations. Instead, you saw silence. And I know some of you felt let down by that. You might even be wondering if this whole thing was overhyped. But here is what I need you to understand. That silence you heard this morning was not a sign of failure. In fact, it was the opposite. And when I show you what was happening behind the scenes while everything looked quiet on the surface, you are going to see exactly why the smart money is paying very close attention right now. Let me paint you a picture of what today actually looked like for traditional banks around the world. While you were scrolling through your phone, wondering why nothing seemed to be happening, major financial institutions were in crisis mode. Payment systems were experiencing delays. Emergency teams were working overtime. Some banks had to rely on expensive backup translation services because their old systems simply could not handle the new standard. This was chaos. Real, expensive, embarrassing chaos. Now contrast that with what happened on the Pi network side. Absolutely nothing went wrong. And that is exactly the point. See, Pi was built using something called the Stellar Consensus Protocol. Without getting too technical, this means Pi was designed from day one to speak this new financial language. The network did not need to be patched or upgraded at the last minute. It did not need emergency fixes or workarounds. When the switch happened today, Pi's systems quietly and perfectly synced up with the new global standard. No drama, no panic, just seamless integration. In the world of high-level finance, boring is beautiful. When a major transition happens and everything just works, that is a sign of serious, professional infrastructure. But here is what really matters, and this is something almost nobody is connecting. Today's smooth transition was not luck. It was the result of very specific moves the core team has been making for months. And when you see how all these pieces fit together, the real strategy becomes impossible to ignore. Let me take you back a few months. Remember when Dr. Nicolas traveled to Korea? A lot of people wondered what that trip was really about. Some thought it was just a conference appearance. Others figured it was routine business. But our sources tell a different story. That trip was about securing something called sign protocol technology. Now, in simple terms, this is the digital signature system that makes transactions legally binding in the new ISO world. Think of it like this. The new financial language requires a very specific type of digital ink to sign documents and verify transactions. Without it, you cannot participate in the new system properly. The Korea trip was about getting that digital ink. But that is just the first piece of the puzzle. Remember the white paper that leaked a while back? The one showing Pi's compliance with European regulations called MiCA? A lot of people dismiss that as just another document. But think about the timing. The core team was not just preparing the technical side of things for today's ISO switch. They were also building the legal framework at the exact same time. They wanted Pi to work technically with the new system, but they also wanted it to work legally in the toughest regulatory environment on the planet. Europe has some of the strictest crypto laws in the world. Getting approved there is like getting a stamp of approval from the toughest teacher in school. And here is where things get really interesting. Because what most people do not realize is how these two pieces, the technical compliance and the legal compliance, combine to create something much bigger than either one alone. This combination is about to force the hand of some very powerful players in the crypto world. Right now, some of the biggest names in crypto are struggling. Binance, Bybit, OKX, and other major exchanges are scrambling to figure out how to comply with European MiCA regulations. This is not easy for them. Their systems were not built with this level of transparency and compliance in mind, but Pi is in a completely different position. The leaked white paper showed that Pi is positioning itself as MiCA aligned from the very beginning. The structure is already in place. The documentation is ready. Now here is the part that almost nobody is talking about, and this is crucial. Under MiCA rules, if an exchange wants to operate legally in Europe, it cannot just ignore a compliant digital asset that has millions of users. Think about what that means. If Pi achieves full MiCA compliance, European exchanges will not be doing Pi a favor by listing it. They will be listing Pi because they have to. Because refusing to list a compliant asset with a massive user base would mean losing market share to competitors who do list it. This completely flips the power dynamic. For years, projects have been begging exchanges for listings. They pay massive fees, they negotiate, they wait. But with proper compliance in place, the pressure reverses. Exchanges need compliant assets to stay competitive in regulated markets. Today's silent ISO activation was the first major step in this entire strategy. Without technical compatibility with the new global financial language, none of the legal compliance would matter. You need both pieces working together. And this leads us to something even bigger. Because once you understand where this is heading, you start to see why certain timelines that seemed like wishful thinking before are now looking very realistic. So the foundation is laid. The technical infrastructure is proven. The legal positioning is underway. What actually happens from here? First, expect to see movement toward major regulated exchange listings. The leaked white paper suggested a major listing could happen as early as late 2025. With today's technical hurdle cleared, the path is wide open. Second, real-world utility is about to accelerate in a big way. Here is something important to understand. Until now, major corporations and developers have been hesitant to build on Pi. Not because they did not see potential, but because of regulatory uncertainty and questions about whether the network could integrate with global finance. Those questions got answered today. Pi is now technically compatible with how the world moves money. Combined with the legal positioning happening in Europe, big players no longer have an excuse to wait on the sidelines. Expect to see a wave of serious applications and corporate partnerships that would not have been possible before today. Third, and this is the big picture view, today's success creates the only path to the kind of value the community has been hoping for. You cannot build something massive on an unstable foundation. You need infrastructure that can handle global scale. You need compliance that opens doors instead of closing them. You need integration with how the financial world actually works. Today, that foundation was completed. But there is one more piece to this story that ties everything together. And it goes back to where we started, with the collapse of Bitcoin's creator's fortune. When Bitcoin was created back in 2009, it was revolutionary. It showed the world that a new kind of money was possible. But it was also a first attempt. And like most first attempts, it had serious flaws. Bitcoin was not built for the regulated world that was coming. It was not designed to integrate seamlessly with traditional finance. It was not created to be compliant from day one. The system the world is building now, with ISO 2022 and regulations like MiCA, requires a different approach. It requires exactly the kind of approach Pi has been taking all along. This is why the contrast between what happened to Bitcoin's creator this month and what happened with Pi today is so meaningful. While the old approach struggles with a changing world, the new approach was built for it. Power is shifting. Not through dramatic announcements or overnight price explosions, but through quiet, systematic preparation for a future that is now arriving. The everyday people who have been overlooked by traditional finance, the billions around the world who were left out of the first crypto wave, they are the ones this new system was built to serve. So pioneers, I want you to really hear this. Do not mistake silence for inaction. Do not confuse patience with weakness. While traditional banks panicked today, Pi Network's systems worked perfectly. While old crypto projects struggle to adapt, Pi was built ready. While others scramble for compliance, Pi positioned itself ahead of time. The foundation is complete. The strategy is working. Everything that happened today was supposed to happen exactly like this. This is not the end of the journey. This is the beginning of a new chapter. The infrastructure is in place, the doors are opening, and what comes next will make today look like just the starting point. Thank you for watching. Hit that subscribe button because the real story is just getting started.